Lovely morning, my people. It's a new week and the official declaration of the National Police Day. Is it a yay or a nay from the president who declared the National Police Day? That was 2 days or 3 days ago. This is now going to be the official National Police Day, April 7th of every year. Well, regardless, we need to honor the sacrifices of our genuine police force and their tireless effort in combating crime in our dear country, Nigeria. This is a special welcome to Ways Breakfast, hashtag what are you saying? I'm glad to be starting off this new week with you, my impeccable audience. On this show, you already know we give you the best conversations that shape our future, from politics to governance, everything health. We discuss technology, finance, and of course, trending issues are not left out. Well, sitting queenly on this chair this morning is Okechukwu Jalukmo, your anchor for today. I'm excited to share this table with my incredible co-anchors, God's Beauty Israel and Oluchi Precious Omenka. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. How
you
are
guys
you?
feeling this morning?
Beautiful.
With the way you start your intro, everything is soft. So I'm like, this week is on to a very soft slide. So yeah, I like it.
I'm looking for money, so I did try to have soft.
You don't want to strain the voice.
You know those people that used to say when you're supposed to break your fast at 7 p.m. and then some people will say I'll break it at 10 p.m. I won't make God like me. That's what's going on right now. So be like be calm. So when he's looking down, it's like, this particular girl, she just different. She did calm this year. Make her just give her all the things which she wants, plus $2 million.
Yay.
But how was your weekend generally?
My weekend was good. A lot of moving around and moving about, but I finally gotten a bit of settling. So I think I was telling somebody yesterday that I'm in a good place mentally because they were asking me, this general question of how are you doing? I feel like it's something I don't like answering all the time because do you really want to know how I'm doing every single day? It fluctuates. It's this today, it's that tomorrow, but one thing is constant.
But I think that's
things will
the
get
idea
better.
of the question.
Sometimes I feel like, don't ask me that question because it will make me reflect on how I really am. Do you get? But I just guess that the weekend went very quickly, and like I mentioned to the person yesterday, I'm in a good place mentally. So yeah, thank God.
That's great. What about you, Gospel?
I like that. I will start with I'm in a good place mentally. I like
because
it's
sweet.
The beauty is radiated.
It's blinding our eyes, guys.
Well, yeah, the weekend was great. It was fabulous. I mean, did church things, did beauty things. That's literally what it is.
Self-care.
The beauty is...
Can I tell you something I learned over the weekend? Somebody said when a woman takes self-care very seriously, it's not vanity. It's actually respect for herself.
Amen,
so it's something I want to start doing.
Amen.
Like very actively. You're respecting yourself. It's not vanity. So do that hair like she's done. Do the lashes. Do the nails.
Come on.
You know,
Energy.
glowing.
Hey.
Do the cash transfer.
Exactly.
Okay, can you tell me, how was your weekend?
My weekend was all right, not so bad. Restful this morning. Not as great as I would have expected it, but
You're
thank God.
looking great. You know, I told you, really, you came into the office.
Yes.
I'm like, what's going on?
Yes, so
Is this
great
sugar
news.
glow? Okay, tell me.
Great news.
Tell us the great news.
Because you guys have to hear it first, I'm going to be interviewed on an international platform this morning.
Ooh,
and so that's
energy.
why I decided to, do a bit of makeup, hair, and everything.
That's really nice.
It's giving international.
Thank you, guys.
Global girl. Global
Appreciate you
kick
guys.
girl.
I appreciate you. Thank you. You know that's right. Anyways, well, we'll go on a quick break right now. I will take you to Today in History. And then I hope you learn one or two from it. When we come back, we'll discuss what you learned from Today in History and then go straight into the news for today. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the show. So our phone lines are open to you. So please tell us what you learned from today in history. Tell us if the National Police Day is a yay or a nay from you. Tell us what you want to tell us. Basically, we're here to listen to you. Today, we're talking about the National Police Day celebration. And we're discussing particularly the need for police reforms and inclusive policing in Nigeria. As Nigeria celebrates National Police Day, I believe it's an opportunity to reflect on the critical role the police play in maintaining law and order, ensuring public safety and upholding the rule of law. However, the Nigeria police force faces numerous challenges, including inadequate resources, inadequate training, and a lack of accountability, which have eroded public trust and confidence in the institution. Why the need for police reforms? Police reform is essential to addressing the systemic issues plaguing the National Police Force. Some key areas that require attention include community policing, like the Neighborhood Watch, and the SARS. We also have training and building and capacity building, accountability and transparency, also inclusive policing, particularly inclusive policing, because this is critical to ensuring that the National Police Force serves all Nigerians regardless of their background, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status. And last but not the least, protection of the rights of all Nigerians. Joining me in the studio virtually is Okechukwu Nwanguma. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Who is the Executive Director, Rule of Law and Accountability Advocacy Center, a passionate Nigerian and someone who is very versed in this sector. And that's why we have him here. Welcome, Okechukwu.
Thank you. Good morning. And let me congratulate Upgrade TV for its coming on board, and this is also my maiden appearance on this new television, and I hope it upgrades television, services in Nigeria.
Yes, that's why it's upgrade. That's why it's upgrade. Welcome, sir. So let's go straight into the conversation. First off, what's your idea of the Nigerian police force as we have it today?
Well, the Nigerian police force is a national police service that was established under colonial rule, and has been governed and was governed. Of course, it was established as a colonial police force to suppress local resistance to colonial, oppression, in order to advance colonial political interests. But of course, over the period of colonial rule up to the time of military rule and up to 2020, the Nigerian police force, despite the achievement of independence and democracy, continued to be governed by colonial law. It was not until 2020 when the new Police Act came into force, was signed by the then President Buhari, that we had a new legal framework that governs the Nigerian police with a view to democratizing the police and making it a police service that serves and protects the people rather than a regime police. So the Nigerian police, under the new Police Act, is expected to be a democratic police that serves and protects rather than oppresses the people and violates human rights. So it is a good thing that the president has decided to initiate this inaugural police day. For me, it is an opportunity to do a thorough introspection into how far we have come with policing in Nigeria. What are the problems and why are we where we are? And what can we do to get it better? I don't know whether that answered your question.
Yes, it does. It does. Thank you so much, Mr. Okechukwu. Just recently, I think this morning is when I even got to hear of the impending protests from the National Police Force. And side by side, or ironically, we're now celebrating them too for their good works and commending those who, are actually patriotic towards their responsibility. So I just want to hear your own thoughts and your view about this protest that is impending and the National Police Force Day. Do you think it's something that should work side by side, or should we take a different approach to this?
Well, I don't know. Did you say the protest is coming from within the Nigerian police, or the one that is being organized by the Take It Back movement?
The Take It Back movement,
The one
yes.
that's been organized by the Take It Back movement.
Okay, yeah. So I think that that for me, grievances over the police in Nigeria, and the first time that as organize themselves to protest, to call attention to the inadequacies within the Nigerian police. Of course, the NSAS protest is a reference point. And I think that citizens deciding to organize is also a way of calling attention to the fact that the police day should not just be a celebration, but a time to do deep thinking and for leaders to recommit themselves, to demonstrate greater commitments to implementing police reform, so that the police will be put in its proper shape to discharge its constitutional mandate to serve and protect the people, to promote, enhance police community, partnership, promote public trust, and ensure that there is collaboration between the police and the communities they serve. Because without that partnership, without public trust, the police cannot effectively discharge their mandate. So that protest for me is not an anomaly. I think it should be seen as the contribution by citizens to draw attention to the need. Not only, it is not just a critic, it's not to criticize the police, but to call attention of the government to also treat the police well, because the police themselves are victims of a bad system, victims of bad governance. I think it is also a wake-up call for the government to adequately fund the police, train the police, equip them, and enhance their morale. So I welcome that protest, and the Nigerian police and government should see it as a welcome development and not as anything contrary. It is a constitutionally guaranteed right to demonstrate.
All right, thank you so much. I mean, I feel like you've been saying so many things that are actually making sense, right? So let's talk a bit about the last statement you made, which is about the fact that, probably one of the reasons why we have the kind of police system that we have right now is probably resulting to the kind of government that we already have in place, right? So let's talk a bit about the reforms, because that's something you've been mentioning over time. So, I mean, when I heard you speak, I want you to talk about structural reforms that should be put in place to transition our police, individuals from, the proactiveness that they are in to the reactiveness that we've seen over time to them being proactive, right? Because again, I'm actually not a fan of police people. I'm so sorry, because again, I've seen most of the things that they have done, and it is nothing to write home about. Do you understand? I've watched videos where there are a lot of insecurity issues, and we are expecting these people to be on standby, but instead you see them running. Which again, I want to ask, what exactly happened during their recruitment system? What exactly happened there? Because they make it look like they don't understand their responsibility, or they don't understand their job. Which is something I think I'd want you to explore a bit more later. But I want us to further talk about the reforms that should be put in place in order for we to see our police proactively. Like I mean, I want you to just explain that a bit. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So you know that Nigeria returned to civilian rule. Some people call it democracy, and I'm careful in my choice of words. Because from what is going on in Nigeria today, I don't think that we have attained. I don't think we have attained the democracy. So 1999, after more than 17 unbroken years of military rule, during which the police were used as tools of suppression. With the election of 1999, we brought, then President Obasanjo. The demand for police reform, was massive. There was huge demand for police reform, and this was because there was need to reform and transform the police from a police or a police force that served the interests of the regime, to a police force that will serve, a democratic police that will serve the interests of the people, to protect and serve and protect the people. Now, between 2016, between 1996, yeah, between 1996 2012, there have been, under successive administrations, no less than 4 presidential committees on police reform. Under President Obasanjo, we had 2. In 2006 and 2008, the police presidential police reform that were, conducted public hearings, received public input on how they think Nigerian police should be reformed. And this committee came back and wrote a beautiful report with recommendations, far-reaching recommendations that addressed practically all the challenges, from recruitment to funding to training to operations to human rights and all that. After that report was presented to the president, what happened? The president came up with white paper, and then nothing was implemented. When the next president came, of course, usually when something happens, maybe police has killed some people somewhere or something serious happened and people begin to call for police reform. The president, rather than go back to that report under the previous government, decided to set up yet another presidential committee on police reform. They went around the same country, did the same exercise, again, wrote their own report, and came up with recommendations which were not different from us, again, shared. Then our president left, and then we had President Jonathan. In 2012, yet again, I think something happened, and then there was this clamor again, public demand, that, complaints about police conduct, and then he said that his answer was also to set up yet another presidential committee, which went around. So, setting up police reform committees to recommend measures for reform became an avenue to evade responsibility, to waste public resources and time. So the point I'm trying to make is that the problem is not understanding. We understand what the problem is. The solutions are known, but it is the lack of political will to implement far-reaching reforms. Police remain, in terms of recruitment. Under President, Obasanjo, we had organized, allowing criminals and misfits to find their way into the police. This was what the president said. Then in 2018, and ordered a moratorium on further police recruitment, and there was need for reform, but that reform has not happened. Police is not adequately funded. What has happened is that the police is casualized. So the military, you know that the military has been in operation across the 36. Rather than reform the police, what they do is to use the military to carry out internal security functions, which are the constitutional mandate of the police. The police is the primary law enforcement agency in charge of internal security, but they are not capacitated to carry out that function. Instead of equipping them, they use the military, and this has consequences for military discipline, military professionalism, and even readiness, military readiness. If Nigeria comes under external attack today, the Nigerian military is not prepared for that. It is because their attention has been diverted from their core mandate of defending protecting the country from external engagement to police reform. By addressing the recommendations contained in the various committees under different administrations, will continue to complain, and Nigerian police people
Okay, we still have you here, sir. You have mentioned quite a number of things that I have also highlighted in my head. You've talking about how the police force should be our first responder to internal threats or whatever might come for Nigeria. But let's now move away from the political stagnation of bringing in police reforms. Let's talk about now about what is really happening in the Nigerian police force itself, talking about inadequate resources, talking about inadequate training, and even lack of accountability. So what kind of what steps would you recommend that we now start looking at, to combat these issues of inadequate resources being diverted to the Nigerian police force, inadequate training, and even lack of accountability?
So it's a whole lot of challenges. But if you ask me, the root of this whole problem is, as you know, the president is supposed to be the operational, under the Constitution and the Police Act, the president is the operational head of the police. Even though for us this is a problem, because it is only in Nigeria that you have situation where the president is operational head. The president can be the policy head, but the Inspector General of Police ought to be the operational head. Now, the appointment procedure of the Inspector General of Police is itself a problem, because even though the Constitution and the Act set out a procedure for the appointment of an Inspector General of Police to ensure that that Inspector General of Police is accountable not only to the president, but also to the people. That procedure, inadequate as it is still violated. What we see is that the president simply handpicks whoever he likes and appoints. And this has its own implication for morale and progression for all officers. So in the case of the current IGP, I'm sure you followed the controversy, a man who have retired, having attained the statutory age and the number of years of service, amended him. So when we talk about political interference, this is one of the manifestations. So the Inspector General of Police lacks operational autonomy. So he sees himself as only loyal and accountable, even though the law sets out the procedure for this, which are not followed. Now, in terms of funding, the police funding, federal government's funding of the police represents a mere contribution. The federal government has a responsibility for police funding, but they have been, unable over the years to adequately fund the police. Most of the support that the police get are from state governors, from corporate entities, and from philanthropic individuals. What the federal government gives in terms of budget is grossly inadequate. But even as that amount is centralized at the force headquarters and hardly trickles down. So you find a situation where state commands don't get much of the police funds. Again, state police commands rely on state governors for funding. DPOs at the divisional levels, you will be shocked to hear how much they get as tally allocation. It is shocking and unbelievable. So, and this is what encourages corruption, because when they don't have the resources to carry out basic operations, they resort to other means, including extortion. Some of the checkpoints you see are set up to, sometimes they arrest people, bring them to the station, and they pay money for bail. Those are means of generating funds. So you see that lack of adequate funding creates room for corruption and abuse. And in terms of public, trust, and of course, human rights violation and corruption destroy public trust. When the people cannot trust the police to protect them, they cannot trust them and cannot cooperate with them. And without that trust and cooperation, the police cannot. So you see that it's a whole, they are all interconnected problems. So unless, as I said earlier, that the government commits to genuinely implementing reforms that will address problems with police recruitment, and recently there have been complaints about out of the whole 36 countries and 36 states and FCT, the commissioners of police in the states, across the states, the Southeast has only one commissioner of police. The South has about 2. The rest are from the North and from the Southwest. So you see, so we talk about inclusive policing, equitable distribution, even following the constitutional requirement for this principle that requires that you accommodate, include every part of the country so that nobody feels sidelined or marginalized. These are all part of the challenges that the Nigerian police face. Corruption is also a problem. Even as we say that the fund of the police is inadequate, the little that they get are not accounted for. And there are no mechanisms, there are no policies to tackle corruption. Accountability systems, both within the police and external, are not effective. They're not adequately funded to be able to adequately discharge their functions of holding the police accountable for corruption and human rights violation. So what it means is that we need to go back to the drawing board. We need to revisit the reports. You need to see those reports and recommendations. They address practically all the challenges that Nigerian police face. And unless the president is prepared to allow the police to operate and function independently without interference, and that the police serves the people and not the regime, the public trust will continue to erode, and the police will be seen by the people as enemies rather than friends that they should cooperate and partner with.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Okechukwu. Listening to everything that you have said, it seems as though you've highlighted more of the problems of this from the top, right, and how it flows, like the fact that there's even briberies because of how underfunded that they are as an institution. But I still can't take my mind off the fact, I'm trying to speak as an average Nigerian, not someone who is trying to dissect policies and everything, but there's this problem of police people taking bribes, at different checkpoint areas. And I think it's a very embarrassing thing, because if a country like Rwanda can ban such and it's being implemented, why can't Nigerians work towards that? So I know you've mentioned that currently they are not funded as they should. The people funding them are usually private entities, different philanthropic individuals that are funding them. But I don't think it's still an excuse to have the recurrent bribery claims that we have across the world. I think it starts as an embarrassment to us as a nation generally. So let's talk about this whole funding thing. You mentioned, the police will start seeing it as a more independent thing, because if we keep waiting for policies, reforms from this top to flow, it seems as though it's going to take a very long time to see this change actually happen. So what do you think can be done internally to ensure that these people have the adequate funding that they need to sort their problems themselves, rather than waiting and waiting and waiting?
So you see, the thing about bribery at roadblocks, I already told you, there was a research that tried to understand why this happened, extortion. And that report was carried out by Human Rights Watch, and I was involved in that research. The title of that report was "Everyone is in on the game." What that meant, what I found was that those people you see at the checkpoints or roadblocks are sent by senior officers to make money and make returns to them. The returns go all the way from down to the top. Corruption is a systemic problem. And if there is corruption at the executive, corruption at the judiciary, corruption at the legislature, so are you surprised that there is corruption within the Nigerian police? You know the case of former IGP, Tafa Balogun, who was dragged for embezzling how many millions of naira. There are few inspectors of police that left office without being trailed by scandals around corruption. So it is systemic, and like I said, there are no internal mechanisms or even external to tackle corruption. Corruption is not punished because before even the police get the allocation they get, it has been pilfered along the way. So the little that comes, the IGP does whatever he likes, and those who ought to hold him to account for corruption are themselves, complicit in the corruption. So the people you see on the road, the few occasions that you see that officers were arrested and for corruption, those ones were simply used as scapegoats for Nigerians to believe that the Nigerian police is fighting corruption. When they send them out, they tell them, if they catch you, you're your own. But when they come back, the returns are shared. So it's a systemic problem. When we have a government that is corrupt, we can't have a police that we desire unless we have a government that we deserve, because the police is a reflection of the character of the state. So who is going to call the police to account? Is it the people in government that are themselves corrupt? So it calls for a whole, thought.
I think Okechukwu's network is breaking a bit, but I think he has said so much about how the system is totally rigged.
Corruption is a systemic thing.
It's totally rigged, and it's almost like when you're trying to fix one place, there's something that, when they say that there are some chains that are holding you back from even gaining freedom or independence of whatever sort.
Pouring water into a basket.
It's very sad to know that he has highlighted how returns, it's like NURTW, this MC Olomo thing where they take money from bus drivers. From bus drivers, you give it to a particular chairman, it goes
on Friday. Yeah.
Yes, it goes up like that. And how do you now combat the issues of this kind of thing when obviously they are returning to the people that you are asking to reform the whole issue? But while Okechukwu is in here, let's quickly talk about how the whole Take It Back protest Take It Back movement protest came at the National Police Day. He said that the police force should see it as a way of pointing inadequacies in the police force and also highlighting the issues that Nigerians face in the police force. But that's not the news that I saw. And while coming this morning, I'd already saw military officers. I saw their cars and their guns. Does that look like it's a communication? Does that look like it's something that, does his approach, is it the same as the people who have said, the IGP has said that anybody that comes out to protest at this time is not the right thing. They have seen it, they called it a threat, not necessarily a law thing, or if I put it like a rights thing. If he has in fact a threat, it means that whoever it is that is being picked up carrying some form of placard would be arrested and probably used as a scapegoat. Like he mentioned that certain people were used as a scapegoat for you to think that this is what is happening in this space. So do you think that this protest, I've said it many times, and it's like, protest is not a thing that really thrives in Nigeria. Every time there's a protest, the longest protest that we had, which was NSAS, I mean, in my own generation, if I would put it like that, still did not amount to anything per se. We still have bribery. We still have trigger-happy policies. We still have neighborhood watch being the one to even go and steal from your house, and so many things like. So what do you think is the way forward when it comes to Nigerians addressing the issues of reforms generally, before we now start talking about the police?
Well, firstly, I'll just say that I know Mr. Okechukwu has mentioned that the police force themselves ought to maybe just come to an agreement that the citizens are doing this protest in good faith to ensure that things work well. But honestly, if I was to be a police officer, I think the timing is quite wrong. And I don't want to speak as somebody who is being biased at this point. The timing is not essentially right. This protest can come by at any time, and not a day that is meant to celebrate people that, in their own way, put out different patriotic stuff to ensure that we are kept safe in their own way, even though we know there are a lot of lapses. So if this is now met with resistance, even though it should not be understood, but if you get what I'm saying, it can be understood in some ways. So I'll just say that if at all this protest is going to happen, because if people, for any protest to be birthed, a lot of thinking, a lot of planning and everything. So that means whether or not the police people would have different checkpoints to say this is a threat, these people will still go about it. I think it should be more about safety now, because this protest is towards people who are supposed to keep us safe. So it just takes just one wrong triggering from somewhere, and it will escalate beyond what we plan. And a day that is meant to be for celebration can turn to something else. So I guess the timing is quite wrong. The Take It Back movement probably had their reasons to say it at this time, but if we look critically, it could have come at any other time but now.
We have our guest back here, so I would like him to quickly wrap it up for us, how we can now ensure that the Nigerian police force is being held accountable. The Nigerian police force and its officers being held accountable for their actions. We're also including the cases of trigger-happy police officers, bribed police officer versus those that ask for bribes, and how we can build together a culture of transparency and accountability within the institution. I think we'll use this to wrap up this conversation with Okechukwu, if we still have him here.
Okay, yeah, I'm here. So the problem is that I know that in the time past, the Take It Back movement had always advocated for improved, welfare for the Nigerian police. It is just because of the mindset and attitude of the police leadership that does not tolerate dissent. This government has stood out as one that suppresses freedom of the basic democratic freedoms, including freedom of expression, freedom of media rights, and and dissent. So it is from that standpoint that I want you to understand why the government or the police are responding to the way they are doing with regards to the planned protest. That protest is not meant to be a violent protest. It's meant to even call for better treatment for the Nigerian police and to call for improved accountability and transparency. So the thing is that within the police there are internal control systems that are meant to tackle corruption and impunity. We have the Complaints Response Unit, which was set up in 2015 by the then IGP Solomon Arase. That was a multi-platform, mechanism through which citizens can send complaints of against police officers for misconduct and get real-time response and resolution. But internally, that mechanism, which started working well, has been sabotaged. Some senior police officers whose cases against whom complaints were made and were called to account by this unit worked hard to make sure that the unit does not operate. Externally, you have the Police Service Commission, you have the National Human Rights Commission, which are external accountability mechanisms, oversight mechanisms that should, hold the police account for human rights violations and misconduct. Again, they are politicized and not properly funded. The idea is that there are no effective mechanisms to deal with and check impunity, and that is why it remains a key factor within the policing system. I did talk about the police trust fund that was set up in 2019 to provide additional funding window for the Nigerian police. Money was raised under that trust fund, but what happened? That money was stolen, and nobody has been brought to account because the entire system is marred by corruption. So who is going to take who? So we need good governance with a new political leader that will actually be, a choice of the people, that will be prepared to serve the people and deliver good governance, because without good governance, we can't have good policing, we can't have good judiciary, we can't have good anything. So at the end of the day, those reform recommendations are there. They are not being implemented. And without good governance, without commitment to implementing far-reaching reforms, we can't achieve the change we want to see within the problem lies.
Thank you, Okechukwu. It's been a wonderful time with you. Thank you for your insights and everything that you have said about the police force. And I like as you have highlighted both problems and solutions that we should take note of. This is where we say thank you for joining us on the show. We hope to have you another time giving us insight on how well we can take the police force from ground zero to 100. Thank you very much, Okechukwu. So we'll go on a quick break right now, and then when we return, we'll take you through the papers this morning. Please stay with us.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, lives a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Welcome back to the show. I hope you have learned a lot from our topic today, talking about the National Police Force Day. We are highlighting the need for police reform and inclusive policing. But I have a bit of news here, so let me quickly read that out. It says they have received multiple reports regarding a planned nationwide protest being organized by the Take It Back movement, which you already mentioned with Okechukwu here, saying they have scheduled it to take place for Monday, 7th of April 2025, beginning from 8 o'clock this morning. In Port Harcourt, the protest is expected at Isaac Borough Park, a central and high traffic area. In Abuja FCT, demonstrators are likely to gather at the National Assembly complex, which may attract a significant security presence. And in Lagos, the protest is expected to kick off from the Ikeja underbridge, a major transit hub in the city. These gatherings may result in traffic congestion and restricted movement around the protest sites, heightened security operations and checkpoints, possibility of civil unrest or confrontation between protesters and security personnel. So the advisory here is to avoid non-essential travel around Isaac Borough Park, Port Harcourt, the National Assembly area and Ikeja Underbridge, Lagos on the 7th of April, which is today. If travel is necessary, please plan alternative routes and allow extra time. Maintain a low profile and avoid engaging in or photographing protest activities. Please stay informed through reliable news sources. And lastly, should the protest occur within your vicinity, you are advised to remain vigilant and situationally aware at all times. And this is what I was saying already about the protest, that is giving this safe vibes.
Of
You're going
course.
to be, or you're going to be watching your show that they have mentioned Ikeja Under Bridge, but it could be your street, it could be anything, and then you start having some level of agitation. I've experienced being tear gassed once before just by being in the wrong place
protest environment.
at the wrong time. So it was not a great thing because my eyes were hurt. My mom, my dad, everybody was. They were so uneased that what's going to happen, and I only escaped that by just a thin thread. So I don't like these protest vibes. It doesn't give like, oh yes, civic duty, and then that's what is happening. But let's just go into the papers today. I think we'll go through the Guardian newspaper and the Punch this morning. We'll take strictly the Nigerian newspaper this morning and discuss it broadly. So starting off with Oluchi.
Yeah, for the Guardian. I have some interesting stories here. I'll just follow up on the whole tariff story we've had over the weekend. U.S. tariffs opportunity to grow Nigerians' non-oil exports, says Oduwole. Adeleke warns Osun monarchs against controversial utterances and fighting publicly. The other story I'd like to talk about is plateau killings. Enough is enough, says federal government amid calls for emergency rule. But now, the one that really gets me interested, it didn't feature on the major headline, but it's in the Guardian newspaper. And that's a comment from the governor of Abia State, Alex Oti. So he came out recently to firmly rule out any plans to contest for a Senate seat after his tenure ends. And he made this declaration, he dismissed speculations because there have been speculations before that after his 8 years, he's going to run for Senate. And the reason why this catches my interest is because I think it's a discussion we need to have more often. We've seen over time where some certain governors at different states, after their 4 years, they take another 4 years, that's 8 years. Sometimes they do good work based on what they define as good work. And the next thing that we're seeing is another political ambition to go into the Senate House. So it's almost like it's looking like a career, it's a political career climb. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I think it's really not how the political landscape should be. It should give people the chance, the opportunity, younger people, the opportunity to be able to go for positions like this. Because it almost looks like that Senate House or, the Assembly is meant for some people who are currently in office now at different governorship, positions, just waiting to take them. If you have served a nation for 8 years, and you think you have served them well, I think you should step down and give chance to other people to be able, to serve as well. So leadership is not about attaining position, it's about service. So when I saw this news, even though it wasn't major, I felt like this really resonates with how I've been thinking recently about the political landscape. It's not a political career ladder where you're, like from master's, I'm going to PhD. No, if you have served, you have served. Let other people have the opportunity to serve. So I think this is a very commendable one from the governor of Abia State. So that's the one to talk about.
Well, I can't say commendable yet.
Until it is...
Until we...
But at least the intention behind it seems like this is something many people can emulate.
Some people would also say that I didn't want to go. They just chose me. My people chose me. They couldn't do without me. Oh, I was not elected. I was appointed. So there are levels to this thing. He might say, I don't want to run for Senate. And then they're like, oh, come and take minister. And you understand? His goal might be different. But that's just being the devil's advocate here. So, but let me quickly take us through the Punch newspaper. We have the police story here. It's still saying that the IGP of police has warned that there's going to be people, or the police command should brace up for fresh nationwide protests. We have another story here that reads, Supreme Court judgment, Abure fears LP headquarters takeover by NLC. We have the 2027 story here that also says coalition pushes for single-term candidate. And the headline on the Punch newspaper reads, 20 governors under fire for delaying 70,000 naira minimum wage. Local government workers, teachers in Zamfara, Cross River, Abia, and others are yet to get minimum wage. Below that, we have Nigeria's debt servicing rises 68% to 13 trillion naira. Another story here is 15 injured in Lagos gas explosion. And the last but not the least story here says, why Trump tariff is bad for Nigerian exports, says federal government. Let me quickly talk about the. I'm still going to be reiterating on the police command protest because I feel like it's a bump waiting to for someone to come and either pull the key or step on, and then it becomes something very explosive. NSAS started like a communal protest before it became a nationwide thing, before it became a worldwide thing where people now started protesting, even when they were not in Nigeria, protesting in other states for international bodies to come in. So I would really advise, just like I've read before, that we should now be wary of our movements today, especially if we're going somewhere, if it's not extremely necessary, please let us stay back.
Wisdom.
Carry wisdom and paste it on your head like this and just think well, because I don't want to lose anybody. I don't want to lose people that I don't even know, because what he just does is that he keeps heightening the insecurity in Nigeria. It could even heighten ethnic biases where
and
they
more
can
grievances.
say, yes, because they can say that it was a Yoruba police officer that killed the Yoruba, and then this will now become a tribal thing. It's going to bring up people now thinking that their neighborhood police should be attacked, even when they had no hand in it from the neighborhood watch. So it could become so many other things more than just a civic duty protest for Nigerians. So please, let's be watchful. It's such a versatile time for us in Nigeria, and I want to be careful too. Godspeed, do you have something to wrap up with while we end the program today? I want to run home.
For those that know,
you want to be safe.
For those that know, I've said it so many times that, I mean, we've seen how protest is in this country. Given, I mean, our generation, right? It has really never worked. We've had the hunger, we've had bad governance, we've had so many. And at the end of the day, these people reduce rice, people buy rice in lower, in small amounts, then before you know, it goes up again. So, I mean, I feel like it's time for us to look for better mechanisms, you know, for us to start. Then before you know, it goes up again. So, I mean, I feel like it's time for us to look for better mechanisms, you know, for you get because again, I'm people hear you. It's not like they don't know. They know what they know you are suffering. They know that you're passing through certain things. They know that you've not eaten this morning. They know that you drank garri this morning. Do you understand? But we should look for better ways to hold these people accountable. Because if you keep going to protest, telling them what they already know, I find that to be very funny, actually. Okay, you already know that I'm very beautiful, so why am I always reminding you that I'm beautiful? Do you understand what I'm saying? It really doesn't change anything. So I feel like we should look for better mechanisms. I've said this again. Last year, we saw how this lover holds somebody accountable, and the apology, we heard it. We should look for better ways, please. Every time going on this, on another tire, on I like the pen on that.
Every time you say better ways, my head is thinking that you really don't mean better ways. So you mean more intense ways, because
intensity works.
So we have a quick comment here. Oshine Richard says, when people like Very Dark Man call out the police for their wrongdoing, society labels them as troublemakers.
You hear?
But discussions like this prove that those voices are necessary for real reform. Well, thank you very much. That's why we bring this discussion to you. Thank you, Oshine Richard, for commenting. My parting shot would be, this is one Nigeria. We got to love each other. This is the spirit that unites us all. So let us show support for combating crimes in Nigeria, not just today, but every day. Thank you again to Okechukwu for joining us on this show and topic today. And to my co-anchors, obviously, you always bring the best conversations to the table. And to our viewers, thank you. Please remember to follow us on our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. Drop a comment and share this link right now. I will see you tomorrow with another great topic. Bye.
Hello, you. Yes, you. This is Usayome Sale from Ways Primetime. Now, we appreciate your continued support for watching our content, following us across all our social media. But we've noticed, for those of you watching us on YouTube, 88.5% of you who watch our content aren't subscribed to our channel. Why? Now, if you are enjoying our content, you enjoy our shows, and you want to stay updated on all things Ways, it's time to hit that subscribe button below. Now, subscribing isn't just for you. It's for the growth of our channel. It helps us get bigger and better. With your support, we can continue to bring even more intriguing and exciting content. How about you subscribing right now and being a part of our community?